Do you ever feel yourself scrambling to stay relevant in this constantly evolving digital landscape? Today, we are chatting with a seasoned entrepreneur steeped in content creation as well as sales and marketing. Together, we'll explore the profound impact of authenticity and a deceptively simple approach to consistent content creation. He'll also share with us why starting with the easiest workflow can make all the difference and how embracing imperfection can lead to your most genuine work. We're going to touch on the generational shift in content creation, the magic behind turning audio into visual content, and striking the balance between personal interests and professional messaging. From effectively communicating with clients to providing clear calls to action, we've got you covered. There's a lot to gain from today's conversation. Welcome to Authenticity Amplified, your resource for attracting and connecting to your ideal client. The go-to podcast for entrepreneurs on the go to grow their business. I'm your host, Shawna Rodrigues, podcast strategist and the founder of the Solopreneur Sisterhood. I'm here to bring community to the entrepreneurial journey and learn alongside you as we tap into knowledge and insights from experts to help you grow your business. I know how much effort you put into your business, and this is useful and practical information coming straight to you wherever you are, whenever you have the time to listen. I'm excited to learn alongside you today with our fabulous guest, Jeff Dolan. He may be an entrepreneur on the cutting edge of content creation, SaaS, sales, and marketing. But at the root, there's still a kid in there that just wants to be creative and make art. So we're going to learn more about some of his journey as well as some of the tools he has that you might appreciate in the work you're doing as well. Thank you so much for being here today, Jeff.
Thanks, Shawna.
Yes. Tell us about a time in your career when you felt the most valued and the most excited about your work.
Oh, wow. So I started after college in corporate America in sales, corporate sales, and there wasn't a lot of creativity in it, right?
No.
I mean, I guess you could say figuring out how to write an email that people actually cared about or how to say something that you wouldn't get hung up on is creative.
Yes. That takes some creation.
And it was funny because when I started, I was like, what do I actually do for a job? I just call people. That's what I'm doing. Okay. You'll pay me to just call people all day. All right. That sounds good. But then I realized oh yeah, you have to actually know what you're doing. And so I was always trying to figure out how do I do something creative? And I was playing in a band at the time. And apparently one of the other coworkers, I guess he left the company to go on the road with his band. Mm-hmm. And so the CEO was like, you need to quit your band if you're going to work here. And I was like, what?
No.
So I literally was like, all right, guys, I'm a grown up now. I've got to tap out of the band and I got to do my job. And so I actually, it was kind of sad. Yeah. And so ever since then, being scarred creatively, I was always looking for how do I infuse creativity in my job and make it fun? Yeah. I think I've told this story one other time, but this was back when I was planning a conference for my company and American Idol was popular. Randy Jackson and, Simon Cowell. This was the original. The original
early days, yeah.
Paula Abdul, right? And so I actually I hired improv actors and I taught them the medical software terms and all the issues and problems that our customers were dealing with. And I taught it to them. And then I said, I want you to set up this crazy skit, but I want you to use all the people in the audience as the talent that is trying out. It was so funny. People were dying laughing. I mean, I'm talking they were falling out because you got to remember, this is stuffy medical. You go to these conferences, you hear these doctors rattle on forever about whatever. And then you get something just out of the box, totally insane, crazy, creative, right? And so I pulled it off. Everybody was super impressed. It was very creative. And I think even after I was gone, they tried to replicate it somehow. For years after that, they were still trying to recreate
Let it live
what
on,
I did.
yeah.
But it was those kind of moments that I remember as they're just the best when you can be creative in your job. And so that's something I would share.
Yeah. Be creative and create connection based on the creativity that you bring to it, right?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Bring the human creation. I love it. I love it. And the other thing we always try to lead with is wisdom worth sharing. So can you think of some type of advice or wisdom that you've been given along the way that has had the largest impact on your career or helped you as an entrepreneur?
I think when I was leaving one of my jobs, one of my managers said, you might not know kind of what your future holds, but just know that you're going to get to where you're supposed to be. That kind of hit me. I was like, okay. And I didn't really understand what she meant. And years later, though, as I've reflected on that, it's really come true, right? We all get what we want, even if it's subconscious. And we all are kind of working towards the life that we feel like we want or deserve. Mm-hmm. And so really, it's trying to understand internally, like, what is it that I want? And let that come out in your life. And your subconscious does a lot towards this. Like, you're making decisions, but we're not all rational, right? We're not all like T-charting it up and like positives and negatives and like making like the best decisions on everything. So a lot of times our gut reaction is like, what do we really want deep inside? And so I think trying to really uncover, like, who are we as a people? What do we really want? What are we passionate about? And then your subconscious mind kind of makes these decisions as you're going in the right direction, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. So actually utilizing that for your benefit instead of having it work against you because you're not aware of it.
Right.
I love that. I love that you learned that. Like, as much as, corporate America can have its faults, it's nice that somebody in that environment was a good influence and gave you some good advice. I dig that. I definitely dig that.
Yeah.
So let's talk more. I am so excited that you had this experience in corporate America. It sounds like you've had these creative outlets you found, and it's like you've had some side gigs to be your creative outlets, but you've created this amazing company that has this really awesome tool for entrepreneurs and individuals finding their way to connect with clients. And content marketing is a big thing we talk about here on our Authenticity Amplified. So tell us more about your product, your path to come into that product, and how it can be a tool for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So I actually started in sales, as I was saying, and then I got into marketing because I realized that most of my customers were finding out about my company online before they even talked to me. So the salespeople were kind of becoming less and less relevant. And I was like, oh, wow, like, content is the game. We gotta get in front of this. In corporate, it's very siloed off. It's like you got marketing department, sales department. They don't like each other a lot of times. The sales guy's like, why you give me junk leads? And the marketing is like, why aren't you calling these people and closing them? It's very contentious. And I was like, man, it needs to be all in one. Like, I need to be doing marketing as a salesperson. And so I started on the side hustle, like my marketing agency. And I started executing on the things that I was learning from everybody that I was learning from. And it was working. And one of my first clients actually said, hey, can you do this full time? Because I need you. And so
they were smart.
So I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And so I actually got to implement everything that I ever wanted to implement. Like, all the ideas you hear, you're like, oh, you got to do webinars, and you got to do funnels and click funnels and, all the different things. Right. And so I actually implemented all that, and it worked. And I 3X the company, and it was amazing. And everybody was cheering. Well, I had some friends that were watching this, and they were venture capital, well, not venture capital, but private equity. And so they said, hey, can you do that for one of our companies? And so they hired me on as CEO of Wave, handpicked it, and said, hey, we like your mix of, technical and creative. Can you come in and do this for us and be a leader? And I was like, man, I've never been able to be the head guy calling the shots. So yes, let's go.
Yes. I like this.
Part of that, which is super exciting, is that I get to actually build a personal brand as well as the company brand, which I think a lot of cutting edge companies are starting to key in on. And one of the companies that I use is ConvertKit. And they're really big on this kind of the individual influencer or creator as kind of the personality behind your brand. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm a little weird in the fact that I'm Jeff Dolan, but I'm also like the head personality of Wave. And so it's been interesting for me to kind of navigate content in that way. And like, how do you create content in a way while also running a company? Mm-hmm. Some CEOs have a big enough company where they can have their people do it all.
It can just melt in the background. Yeah.
And then they can just do fun stuff like podcast interviews and like go play in a band and just do whatever. I'm not that fortunate. Like I actually have to run the company and day to day execute. So I don't have a lot of time to create content. And so it becomes very important to be fast. And so one of the things that Wave does is it allows you to take your audio and just create video for social media quickly without having to shoot video, edit video, do anything time intensive, right? And even though I'm a filmmaker and I love editing, and this is kind of the painful thing about content is if you're good at creating it, if you like doing that, you generate a lot of content and then you're sitting on all this content going, uh-oh, Batman.
Yeah, my phone is full of like these little clips that I make that never make it online. And there's like, oh, well, now it's too late for that because that's not relevant anymore.
Right. And that's the sad part, right? Because the content gets old and you're like, uh-oh, I can't post that anymore.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. It's not summer about that thing anymore. So maybe next year won't apply. So never mind.
And I think, and it's funny too, because I remember recording podcasts just prior to COVID, and then COVID hit, and then it felt all irrelevant. Like all of a sudden, I just was like, "Well, can't release any of that."
Everything's changed, and nothing's the same. Yeah. Context, I guess, matters.
Yes, and I think that's the hard part too when you're scheduling and trying to be efficient, right?
Yes.
Because you're like, oh, I'll just schedule out, months and I'll be so ahead and I'll be awesome. And then you realize like on week 2, you mentioned something that's totally out of context based on what's going on in the world.
Yep. Can't predict that one.
I know. You got to be wow. It's super hard these days. And I just wrote in my newsletter at Wave about kind of staying in your lane. Which is super hard to do, right? Because as creators, we want to share our personality. We want to, Gary Vaynerchuk is big on this, where it's like, just be yourself. And, if you like Smurfs, Smurf it up, like all that kind of stuff. And it's tough because there can be topics that you're into that are just not popular to talk about and can get you in hot water where somebody would really enjoy your content. But then you start talking about something totally random that's not even related to what you're about. And people are like, weird flex. Like, I don't know about that.
Well, the interesting thing is like something we work on with my network is finding like the cool intersection of how it relates. So you're not like completely tangential all the time.
Right.
You can find cool, cute ways if you're really into Smurfs that you go on to this way of relating business according to the different characters with the Smurfs, and that somebody will find that and think it's awesome, and that's your tribe. And other people will be like, that's ridiculous. I'm not connecting. But you have to be careful with the things that you're connecting on, because sometimes, again, like if you have, especially things that you haven't worked through, because that's where I find, like, I interviewed somebody for one of my podcasts the other day, and they're like still all over the place with something, and they kept using these terms related to it because they're still pushing back and don't know how to look at it. And that's when you really lose people. Like, if you've worked through, you love Smurfs and you're good with Smurfs, that's something you can integrate. But if you're like, well, I kind of feel ashamed sometimes about Smurfs, I'm not sure about it, and I feel like I'm treated like a little kid, and then you try to integrate it, like that doesn't work.
That's a really good point.
So find your things. And right now there's so much in the world that's turmoil that you probably aren't settled on, and you don't know how to feel about, and you don't have enough information on. Don't touch those things. Those things aren't the things you need to bring into the conversation. You don't know enough. You haven't seen the different sides of the topics. Those aren't the things you should bring into your content at all. So, and maybe you don't know enough about Smurfs yet. Like it's just a vague memory as a child. And so don't bring it to Smurfs. I don't know enough about Smurfs. I only have vague memories. The true Smurf
lovers are like, you're not authentic. You don't know what you're talking about. So you alienate the core group and the people that don't know anything about it.
See, Jeff, we've nailed it. Only be true to it. Make sure you can go there and you know the facts and you're actually connected, and not just trying to grab some cute core memory that you have like 5 seconds from one time you watched a show when you were a kid. Like,
Exactly.
You got to be true to what you're actually true about. So
exactly.
yeah, I think we unpacked it pretty well. We did, Jeff. I think we just nailed that. So yay us.
Winning at life.
But we're all just figuring things out. So we had to have some grace with each other as we're trying to figure out like this weird thing of like, I'm a CEO, but I'm also a personality. And where do I insert myself? And how do I be authentic, but not make up things and get into things that aren't in my lane? And how do I figure that out? Yeah.
It can be hard. I mean, because you're representing a company, a brand, right? Your clients, you got a lot of eyeballs on you. So, and then just carving out time to do it, to create and edit and publish. I mean, you were talking about SEO earlier. SEO is even in question now. I mean, I'm reading articles now where I'm like, okay, AI is eating everybody's lunch. I mean, if people are going to start using that instead of searching, then SEO is really just an algorithm. They're just going to rehash our content and spit it out the way that people want it. And so I think it's going to be really interesting how certain industries in the content game are changing, right?
Yeah. And we had to be mindful and thinking about it and rehashing how we see things, like on our toes about it, right? Because it is going to be evolving and shifting in ways that we got to kind of figure out. Yes. But the cool thing about your tool is it can be this great assistance. So Wave can help you with that process that you can take just audio. So if you don't have the time to do the video, do all the other pieces, you can take audio. So if you just record something, it can turn it into a social post for multiple platforms, right? Like it works.
We give you the video, the MP4 file, so you can post that on any platform and any new platform that comes out, right? So if Threads comes out, it's like, hey, here, I got all my MP4s. I can just load them all up. Here we go.
Yes. So you're able to take one-dimensional, we'll call it for lack of a better word, but like one-dimensional format such as audio and turn it into something visual. So then you can use it in more ways and more places, which is a huge time saver for folks that are trying to get themselves in more places and find where they belong without having all the additional work that might come with that, right?
Yeah, so it's great for introverts that don't want to be on camera, or if you just don't want to put your makeup on like every day. My wife is a teen girl coach and life coach, and she plans her day around her hair, her makeup. I got to be on camera for my clients, like the whole thing, right? And so I know it's just reality. But if you already have a beautiful headshot, you can just put that on the video, add your audio, and you're done.
Yes,
so
much
that's
easier.
What Wave does. And it's been really helpful for people to put out content on a regular basis that way. So you're not stuck with all the video editing, all the stuff that you got to do that just slows people down. It kind of speeds you up. And I've also talked to creators that test their content this way, which is super interesting. So check this out. So we have a generational shift happening where people that are like 38 and over are searching Google, creating long form content, right? We're creating the long podcast, the long YouTube videos, or writing books, or don't. The younger generation is just putting out like a tweet and then like putting out like a TikTok. And they're like, is that popping off? Because if that's not popping off, I'm not doing the long form version of that. So they're real smart on how they do content. And so we're kind of doing the opposite. We're like creating all this long form, and then we're like, man, how do we repurpose this to get it back into the short form content all these kids are doing, right? And then the kids are like, forget the book and the long form, whatever. Like, I'm going to test this. And if this thing goes viral, I'm going to talk more about that and do more of that.
Yeah, this is great because it works for whichever way you're doing things, right?
Creators are actually using Wave to create podcasts that are just their thoughts. The snackable clips is their content starting off. So they're just putting ideas out. Like you were saying, like I have like a voice note or something. Like they're just putting that out. There is no podcast to link to. There is nothing else. It's like, here's the content. Do you like it? If you like what I'm talking about here, I'll do a full episode on it. Otherwise, I'm not wasting your time or my time.
Nice. That is brilliant. And that is a whole new way of looking at things. It's helpful.
It is.
I'm over 37. I fit in that category. So yeah. Yeah, it must be barely. That's awesome. No, that is a creative way. And that is a great tool for something like that, right? To be able to just get it out there fast and easy.
Yeah. You just get it done, put it out. And I think the intimidating thing, right, is like you have your face on camera, right? You're like, oh, how do I look? Like it's just too hard. Just open the audio app and just record.
Yeah,
Easy.
exactly. And the faster, the easier. And the quantity to find the right thing is part of the process at times, right? And so being able to have an easy tool to be able to make that happen is fabulous.
And what I encourage people to do is go through the entire process with the most easiest workflow you can. Because the workflow doesn't change. You still have to plan what you're going to say, or at least think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to create the content, edit the content in some way, publish the content, distribute the content, right? You might have to repurpose the content, right? All those steps are still in whatever you do. You still have to do all those steps. So pick the easiest thing you can do consistently to get the wheel turning.
Yes.
And now you got the whole process where you're like, okay, I can do all parts of the wheel and it's turning now. Might not be much coming out, but the whole thing is going and okay, now I'm going to add video. Oh my gosh. Now it's going to take a little longer for that wheel to get going, right? Oh, I'm going to add a new person. I'm going to add a virtual assistant. Oh my God, I got to train this person. Oh my goodness. Then all of a sudden you have content coming out on a regular basis. Where I think a lot of people get stuck is they think, okay, I have to have everything perfect. I got to train everybody. I got to learn how to be an amazing interviewer. I got to get the right mic. I got to get the right graphics. I got to get the right website. I got to get my tools all lined up and research every one of them and which one's the best one, which one's the one that all my heroes are using, right?
Yes.
And then a year later, they still haven't done anything. And they're like,
yes,
I'm planning.
But you need that minimum viable product and you need to start with that. I love it. Jeff, that's brilliant. That is so helpful. And it's so awesome too that you have the tool that helps with that. But I think that whole concept of that minimal viable product and just getting the wheel turning, and then you could put in the places that that matters, that keeps it going more and more. But getting started, I think
minimum viable content.
Content, minimal viable content. Yes. I love it. That is so helpful. I appreciate that. So as we're moving, because we're getting kind of towards our wrap up part of the conversation already. So we always kind of do a little exploration of authenticity, as it's kind of part of our theme. Is there someone, when you think of authenticity and expressing that, is there someone in your life that you feel is really authentic and does a good way of expressing that? And what about them do you think is really authentic?
Like in my personal life or people I follow online?
Either, any. We're really open. Whatever feels like the easiest answer for you.
I think I always mention Brené Brown a lot when it comes to authenticity, mainly because she really speaks on vulnerability being an attractive quality of online influencers and personalities. And so, and people in general, because if you show up and you're like, I have all the answers, everyone's like, boring. But if you show up and you're like, I'm trying to figure this out, I need help, I really messed up, they're going to lean in and be like, I can help you. Let me listen. Right. And so Brené Brown is a really good person to follow if you're trying to figure out how do you become more of yourself. And we're all vulnerable in different ways and we all have our insecurities. And she's able to really share it in a really clean way that she shares personal stories about herself, her family, struggles she's had. And I think it's a really good example of somebody that you can still respect, even though you know that she's been through some hard things. And that model is a really helpful one for people that are trying to put themselves out there on a podcast in their content, because it's very, I would say, freeing to just be like, this is who I am. I've been through some stuff. And then it gives context to what you're saying.
Exactly. You don't have to be on guard all the time, and people can respect you more because you're being yourself and being real and letting that be clear. That's awesome. She's amazing. So for your expertise, what advice do you have for our listeners who are trying to make it in business, who want to amplify their message and better connect to their clients? What do you think? I think we've had some good little pieces we could just reflect on. We've already shared, but kind of what would be your closing little sharing of advice or expertise you'd like to offer around that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of content creators that are good at making content, but they're really bad at making offers to their core client.
Yes.
And so I would say put a little bit of effort into speaking directly to the person you're trying to help and telling them what you have, how it's going to help them, and why they should connect with you. And then what's the next step that they need to take with you, right? So just putting those things together, even if it's just like a little 30-second video you record and put up on your website with a little form under it that's like, schedule a call with me, right? Because here's the disconnect. You create a bunch of great content. Everyone's like, thumbs up, that's awesome. And then they go listen to the next thing, or they go watch a Netflix or the YouTube, right? Like there's no next step. But if you record something that's like, I have this really cool thing. I help people that are like this. Are you like this? Do you have this problem? I can help you. Click here, fill out the form. Let's talk. Bam. Now your business can start growing. Without that connection point, you're lost. You're just out there creating content for years and years and nothing's happening.
So don't forget, I think this is great because the last thing we do is our real world application. So that last piece of don't forget the final step of that call to action and telling them that, yes, I have all this great content, but the final step is, and this is how it applies to you. And this is how you connect to me so I can keep supporting and helping you. So that last call to action and close it.
And we're going to practice. And I want you to give your call to action for the viewers of this podcast.
Oh, look at you, Jeff. I was ready like, at last. So how do people connect to you? And now you turned it on me. That was brilliant, Jeff. You're a great guest. So for folks who want to work with me, who are interested in Authentic Connections Podcast Network, the best way to work with me is to actually go to the easiest way is to find me on Instagram and go at 37by27. If you just go to that link in bio, the top thing on there is for you to be able to find out about how to get connected to the network and to just connect with us there. And we will give you the information about having a call directly with me to learn more about where you're at with your podcasting and if you'd be a good candidate to sign up with our network for us to support you and launching your podcast and working with us directly. So yes.
Let's break this down now. Hold on.
Yes.
How do I know I'm a good fit for your network?
Well, you would be somebody who has a podcast that you want to start that is about connecting with because the connection piece is kind of an important part of our network and the work that we do. So that it's actually about like connecting, that you have a message, you have something you want to say that you're interested in doing and you're ready to start it. And so we work largely with entrepreneurs who have a business that they want to get their message out and connect with others around. And you're ready to start that. And you're ready to have somebody who's going to be coaching you and doing the production for you and getting you out there and making you successful. And if that's where you're at and you're ready to do that.
I don't want to do any work. I just want to show up and then you do the rest.
No, you actually got to want to do the work a little bit.
Okay. What work am I doing? What work am I doing?
What work are you doing? The work that you're doing is, well, the beautiful thing is we take the stressful pieces away. So we do the actual production pieces and we do the creative pieces like your podcast art and that type of stuff for you. So we do the stressful pieces and we help you figure out the tech and set you up with all of that. And we do the coaching pieces for you. So your pieces is figuring out what your title is going to be for your podcast, who you're going to be interviewing, what you're going to be talking about. And we walk you through those things. And so you got to be ready to like just do the work of figuring those things out. And it still can be challenging to do a podcast.
But you're going to coach me. You're going to coach us through this. If we want. So what's the next step? Click on the link in your Instagram. What if we're listening to this on YouTube or somewhere else? Where do we click?
Well, the best thing is to go to Linktree, linktr.ee/37by27 would be
link in the description. If you're listening to this on any platform, there's a link somewhere in the description.
To the Linktree, and on
that'll go where? What do I do when I go to that website?
You will sign up to do a 20-minute call to talk to us about that because we do that. We'll send you to the cart, but first we want to actually meet with you because we don't just take anybody in. So we want to meet with you and make sure that you're ready. So we meet with you and then we will send you to the cart so you can pay to join our network and start working with us.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes.
So the challenge for everybody listening, and I put Shawna on the spot. The challenge is to get all that down into like a few minutes or less.
Yes, and very
just
coherently.
Be snappy with it and just be like, here's what you do. Here's why you should sign up. Here's what I offer. Here's what you need to bring. Here's if you're not good for this. Here's right. You go through all that. And then you say 20-minute call to find out if you're a good fit. Click the link in the description. You're going to go to a page. You're going to schedule a call on my calendar. We're going to talk for 20 minutes. At the end of that call, you're going to either have a partner and a coach in the podcasting game, or you're going to realize you got more work to do. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win. Jeff, you're amazing. You're amazing. I did not expect that. That was beautiful. Thank you. Apparently, I'm learning right along with everyone. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. And so if you want to get in touch with Jeff and learn more about Wave, tell us your turn, Jeff.
If you're a podcaster, if you're an audiobook author, if you're an executive, right, and you just create audio, we have the tool that can turn your audio into video for growing your influence on social media. So go to wave.co, wavve.co, sign up for a free trial, try it out, you get unlimited for 7 days. And then if you like it, stick around with us. And I write 2 times a week on my newsletter to teach you how to do all this content stuff. My personal filmmaking creative stuff is on my personal website at jeffdolan.com.
Nice.
And yeah, let's go on the content journey together.
That's beautiful. And we'll make sure that is in our show notes and available for you as well. So you can click through to all of that. Jeff, you have been so much fun. I have really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Me too. My pleasure.
Thank you. And for everyone listening, we know that being an entrepreneur, that 80% of entrepreneurs are solopreneurs. I don't know if you knew that, Jeff, but they are. But you don't have to be doing it alone. And we will be here every week on Authenticity Amplified to be here on this journey with you. So thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks.
Isn't there so much for us to learn on this entrepreneurial journey? Thanks for spending time with me here on the Authenticity Amplified podcast. It is a joy to grow together with you. If you're interested in learning more about the subscription on Apple Podcasts so that you can get up close with our guests and gain additional insights and wisdom, as well as get your episodes 2 days earlier, be sure to head over to Apple Podcasts. Subscribing is also a fabulous way to support this podcast so we can keep producing this valuable content. Don't forget to pass this along to someone you know who could benefit from one of the many nuggets of wisdom and value you gained from this conversation today. Until next time, remember, just because you are a solopreneur doesn't mean you have to do this alone. Keep being authentic to who you are, what you bring to the table and to this work, and the impact you will surely make. Until next time.